I would argue that we've not seen a situation as dangerous as the one we're facing now across the region since at least 1973.
Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, making those comments yesterday. Good morning. Welcome in. It's great to be here on a Tuesday on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Those comments made just hours after the names came down on the 3 American service members who were killed in Jordan over the weekend. The Pentagon identified them as Army reservists from Georgia, all 3 of them. Sergeant William Jerome Rivers, 46, of Carrollton, Georgia. Kennedy Layden Sanders, 24, of Waycross, Georgia. And Breonna Moffett, 23, of Savannah, Georgia. Died over the weekend in an attack by Iranian proxies, and clearly another sign of failure from the people in charge of this country when it comes to how they're handling the American business overseas. That's what this is. It's another example. And now you have the Secretary of State admitting that the Middle East right now is as dangerous as it's been in 50 years. 5-0, not 1-5, 5-0. And it's resulting in American casualties. And by the way, you combine that with the border policies of this administration, and we are just waiting for somebody to light the match on something that to me would be incredibly serious, incredibly dangerous, and yes, incredibly deadly. I don't want to be this somber as we start off a Tuesday morning here on KCMO, but I don't know what other conclusion to come to right now. You have an administration that continues a policy of appeasement, and it is utterly failing you and I, the American people. And it has literally failed now American service members, 3 of them from Georgia, who lost their lives. Mr. Rivers, Mr. Sanders, and Miss Moffett over the weekend in this attack in Jordan. So, and by the way, when it comes to the idea of appeasement, you know, people always want to debate this, want to have them back and forth. And listen, we're always open to the conversation here on KCMO at 913-408-7957. But let me give you the perfect quintessential example of appeasement by the people in charge. Did you know that the U.S. secretly alerted Iran ahead of an Islamic State terrorist attack that took place earlier this month? It came out here in the last couple of days that the U.S. had secretly warned Iran that ISIS-K was plotting to attack them and preparing to carry out a terrorist attack earlier this month that killed more than 80 Iranians in a pair of coordinated suicide bombings. So I remember, you know, the bombings happened back on January 3rd. It was right after we got back here on the show. And then it just came out in the last couple of days that American officials passed on critical information to Iran that was specific enough about the location and the sufficient timing that it might have provided useful to Iran in thwarting the attack. But Iran failed to prevent the suicide bombings, which targeted a crowd that was commemorating the anniversary of the death of Qasem Soleimani, the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps that, of course, Trump killed him in a drone attack back in January of 2020. Remember that? Trump ordered that drone attack to kill Soleimani, and he got him. So these Iranians were basically celebrating and commemorating the life of Soleimani. And what do we do as an American government? We actually gave them a heads up that, hey, ISIS-K, a terrorist organization, might be targeting Iranians. We let them know that this was possible. Now, what they did with the information is their business, and the answer is apparently nothing. But we gave them the information. And less than a month later, how do they repay us? With their proxies killing 3 American troops in northeast Jordan on the Syrian border. That's the thank you that we get from these scumbags. Yet you have people like John Kirby with the administration who, I mean, really is the biggest embarrassment this side of Karine Jean-Pierre. He's the National Security Council in the White House. He's their communications guy. And he gets up there and he does a press conference yesterday and he insists that appeasement of the worst actors on planet Earth is in no way what he's trying to do and accomplish.
The president's response to Republican critics who are of the mind that this attack was the result of perceived weakness. For instance, the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee said that President Biden's fear of escalation has morphed into a doctrine of appeasement.
They can speak for themselves. That's obviously not the way we see this.
Really, it's not the way you see this, John Kirby. You don't see yourself and your boss as trying to appease the worst actors on planet Earth and then ultimately getting steamrolled by them as their proxies kill American troops and American citizens. I don't know how you don't come to that conclusion. I understand burying your head in the sand and not wanting to admit that your approach to the worst actors on the planet has been an absolute utter failure, but I fail to see how, based on facts, you can possibly come to that conclusion. When less than a month ago, you were tipping off the Iranians, trying to give them an opportunity to save their people. Not only did they choose not to take your advice, but then, less than a month later, they had their proxies attack a base that injured 40 people and killed 3 of our servicemen and women. That's their big thank you, a big double middle finger and killing Americans. And you guys think you've got this thing all straight and narrow? You think you've got this thing all figured out? It is the same weak, pathetic approach that we saw from 2009 until January of 2017 under Joe Biden's former boss. And he is trying it once again, except he's trying it, and the results thus far have been even more disastrous. Whether it's the incredibly pathetic pullout from Afghanistan and everything and everyone that was left behind, through the perceived weakness from Vladimir Putin that I believe led to Ukraine and the invasion there, to now what's been going on the last 3 months in the wake of October 7th. It all is led by weakness at the highest levels on the world stage, and that is right here in the United States. 913-408-7957. So what now? I mean, how does the United States respond? Well, as far as I can tell, the options include a direct strike against Iran. You either do that, you attack their proxy groups, or you start ratcheting up some of the financial pressure. That's the other option. I mean, don't forget, Iran has got very rich under Joe Biden. As we have cut ourselves off at our knees by refusing to produce the amount of oil that we can in the name of climate change, Iran is getting very rich on its oil supply. Why? Because we have chosen not to maximize our supply. So as supply decreases and demand continues to go up, the price of oil obviously continues to tick up, even though we've seen a nice reprieve from that as of late. But Iran is printing money on this stuff because we're saving the planet one EV, or attempting to save the planet one EV and one Greta Thunberg march at a time. That's what we're doing. How dare you? Yeah. The text line is 913-408-7957. And do not forget what the Secretary of State said, and I'll replay this clip that I played to start the show here this morning.
I would argue that we have not seen a situation as dangerous as the one we're facing now across the region since at least 1973.
50 years. The Secretary of State for this administration is admitting the Middle East has never been as dangerous as it is right now in the last 50 years. What does that tell you? Coming up next, we'll get to what is right now to me the top story here in Kansas City as we roll through the morning. Much more on this. Don't forget it's a tirade Tuesday at 8:30, and we've got Dr. Jordan Peterson tickets at 7:15, 1 hour away. He's coming to Cable Dahmer Arena next month on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7. Busy morning. It is so good to be here on KCMO Talk Radio Now on 95.7 FM. We are in our 4th month of being on that frequency. If you haven't yet, hit the preset on your radio dial as we get the Tuesday morning started off. I'm always a fan of preset number 1 for my favorite radio station, which I hope for you is 95.7. So it's that time of year. You just heard from Greg Bennett. Should be 20 degrees, but hey, I went outside this morning in nothing more than a vest. It's going to be another day of 60 degrees. Took Woody out for a nice stroll yesterday. He was living the dream, man. Life was good. So we got another few days of this kind of weather, which I'm fired up about. So we're kind of getting that fake spring, and we all know how this goes, right? We're going to get a big snowstorm now in mid-March to pay for it, right, John?
Oh, yeah, put some bulbs in, and they start blooming, and then here comes the St. Patrick's Day frost.
Yeah. That's exactly how it goes. So, but we kind of have this spring. I mean, this has been an awful month in so many respects. I mean, outside of the Chiefs, the weather's just been terrible. So we're sitting here now, and we got this fake spring coming through. But one thing we're dealing with, well, the potholes. And I've seen a lot of stories on local news. I saw the Kansas City Star had a piece about this. And a writer for the Kansas City Star said that, she blew out a tire and needed a completely new wheel put on after she hit something.
Yeah, you
up in
ding the
Gladstone.
rim. See,
Yeah.
you ding the rim, and it's not ever going to hold air pressure now.
Yeah. So listen, we're all dealing with it. I dodged a couple of pretty solid potholes yesterday. I got one coming in at the end of my street I'm going to have to call the town about. So we're all dealing with it, right? We've all got the issues with the potholes. We're starting to see them around town. But it does seem like it's always worse on the Missouri side, John, does it not?
Yeah, I think so. Well, definitely. So I know where to zig, but the problem is there's potholes developing in the zag now, right? Yeah. That's when we have problems. You can go, whoops,
Whoa, here's
Everybody's
another.
been ducking it the same way I have.
Well, it is bad right now. The amount of complaints that have been out there to Kansas City proper in particular, already, not even through the month of January, is about a fifth of what they normally get in a given year. 1,200 complaints reported to Kansas City in the first 28 days of the year. That's a fifth of last year's tally. So this month has been horrible for potholes. Now, of course, you can report your potholes in Kansas City by calling 311 or 816-513-1313 and then press 3. Or report the pothole in the My KCMO app. So any of those ways you can report your potholes. But I would do it because, Quentin Lucas, he's got 27 posts on the Chiefs game the last couple of days. How about we go fix some potholes there? Come on, my man.
Well, and not all of us live in Kansas City for sure, but, I mean, you might as well send it to the county and to the state so that when they point the finger to the other, you've already got yourself covered.
Well, that's
CC that, baby.
Good idea as
Right.
well. Yeah, because the city points to the state for some things. And the
interstates, I assume, are the state's issue.
Yes.
Right? And so that's why I've heard a lot of these, but I'm sure they're on the side streets in the usual places.
Well, here are the numbers as well, and this is not good. Kansas City, once again, this is ranking the metro. So not Kansas City proper, this is the entire metro. But Kansas City is one of the top 10 metro areas in the nation for search terms related to potholes, according to a new report from USA Today. So that top 10, New York, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, Nashville, San Francisco, Spokane, Washington, Yakima, Washington, Washington, D.C., Seattle, Washington, and Kansas City comes in at number 10 on that list.
I would have thought it would be weather-induced, and I understand New York and L.A. being just large vicinities, right? Some
Yeah.
of those are large. Minneapolis would be like us. You get this weather, and then, how the potholes develop and stuff. I might have thought St. Louis or Omaha or somebody would have been in there here in the Midwest, too, or Davenport.
Des Moines, I don't
right.
know. You're right. Something like that. Now, New York and L.A. are just crappy-run big cities. So
Exactly, and extend that to what, Frisco and things.
yes,
right?
San Francisco. I mean,
There's a
San
few you check
Francisco.
off as just going.
How is San Francisco in the top 5? They don't see any snow. They're never putting ice on the streets out there. Just a dump.
They don't drive cars, I thought.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing, right? They don't even drive cars. Everyone's walking around. But now I guess they got to be dodging criminals and homeless people all over the streets. So maybe they are getting in cars these days. I don't know.
Yeah, Seattle and Yakima, I guess, was like Northwest. I suppose that could be like us in
Yeah.
Minneapolis, right? Related that way.
That I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And D.C. is just, I mean, they don't get a lot of snow, but once again, it's just a dumpy, poorly run city. So to Kansas City being in the top 10, not a good sign. And something tells me these next few weeks are going to be brutal. I mean, I have seen some craters around town the last, I would say, 7 to 10 days. So just be careful, be smart, and do make sure, by the way, that you are reporting these potholes. I don't want to hear the mayor saying, I didn't get that one. I didn't know about that one.
Right. Report it to the city, to the county, to the state, to the HOA, to the PTA. Just cover your bases.
Exactly.
And get off your phones and keep an eye on the road.
Well,
touche.
Yes. Here to that, Mark. I was driving home yesterday, and I'm in the middle lane on 435, and I just looked to my right because I got to start merging, and there's a young guy. I mean, I don't know how he was driving a car. He wasn't looking at the damn road. I'm like, buddy, put down your stupid phone. You look like a total jerk. I don't know how you're not going to get somebody killed out here on 435, and just drive the damn car. I mean, Mark, now you're going to get me all bent out of shape. Now it's going to be Tirade Tuesday at 6:28 in the morning, or 6:26.
6 o'clock edition.
Yeah, the 6 o'clock edition of Tirade Tuesday, thanks to Mark Van Sickle. So way to go, Mark. You've been back a week plus, and you get me all bent out of shape when I'm not supposed to be bent out of shape at 6:30.
Sorry about that. But, yeah, they're going to hurt themselves running into potholes if they're looking at their phones, too.
You're right. So don't even care about me. Don't worry about my life. Don't worry about the lives of those around you going 70 miles an hour. We're doing this to help you out so that you don't end up hitting a massive crater in the middle of the road. That's what we're here for on KCMO Talk Radio. Good morning. It is great to be kicking off a Tuesday. Even better that we've got these Jordan Peterson tickets coming up at 7:15. By the way, Missouri Governor Mike Parson will be on the show at 8 o'clock. And, yes, I will ask him and get an update on Eric DeValconaire, the Kansas City, Missouri police detective, who, of course, is currently sitting in prison. So don't miss that with the Missouri governor. And then, yes, a Tirade Tuesday at 8:30 on KCMO. Next, we've got an update on the biggest Chiefs fan in town, and it has nothing to do with football. That's next. The biggest Chiefs fan coming up in less than 2 weeks is not somebody who has anything to do with the Chiefs. It's not Clark Hunt. It's not, you. It's not John. It's not Mark. I mean, Mark's going to be rooting for his 20-way parlay, that's for sure. And don't get me wrong. I mean, these guys are lifetime Chiefs fans. I'm an adopted one. But the biggest Chiefs fan in less than 2 weeks is going to be Royals owner John Sherman.
Aha.
You see what I did there?
I think so.
So John Sherman knows that he wants to get his 3/8 sales tax extended in Jackson County. It's going to be on the ballot in April. And there's a lot of people right now that, frankly, don't want to see the Royals move. They don't think they need to move out of the K. And we know that sports is highly emotional, and the Royals have not been any good. And there's a lot of people who will say, hey, I, frankly, don't want to see the Royals move. And the team has stunk for well over half a decade now, and I don't want to give them any money. But the best thing the Royals have going for them in this sales tax extension vote is that the Chiefs are on the ballot. And the Chiefs are already going to a Super Bowl. I don't think they need to win a Super Bowl to solidify what they mean to this town. But if there was ever a possibility that this thing would fail, the Chiefs winning a Super Bowl would just put it over the, basically get this thing done. If the Chiefs win a second straight Super Bowl and a third Super Bowl in 5 years, there is no doubt that Jackson County voters are going to go to the polls in April and say, whatever you want, Clark, whatever you want, Patrick Mahomes, whatever you want, Mark Donovan, it's all yours. Take my money. Here it is.
That's what former coach Marty Schottenheimer might say is luck.
Yeah.
Preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
They're kind of prepared. Here's an opportunity coming up. You got to capitalize on that.
And that's why I wonder if the Chiefs also are in part like, let's just get this thing on the ballot right now. Why wait? Like, I know 2031 is not that far away and Mahomes is only 28 years old, But why wait? If the taxpayer's going to give it to you now, take it now and run with it, John.
One thing the Chiefs haven't said, and all you'll hear is wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
They have to do some modifications for the World Cup and the FIFA at the stadium.
Yes, they
Right?
do.
And the Chiefs haven't come and said, oh, help. Right? To their credit, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that's funded.
I don't
I'm curious
either.
about all that.
Because they got to remove seats,
Supposedly.
and then they're going to have to, I guess, put them back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who's paying for that.
Right.
I don't know if that's a state of Missouri thing or what the deal is. But you're right. That's coming up here in 2 years.
That's something the Chiefs have to take on. You do it, and then you remodify. It's like two processes, as far as I understand it.
You got to remove
Unless
them.
they put in those little kind of collapsible, folding out,
Yeah.
Hockey arenas had the deals with
Yeah.
basketball floor type. I don't know if that would work, but anyway.
I don't know
That's
either.
something, too, that comes in. And like I'm saying, the Chiefs haven't been saying, help. We
No.
need the money now.
They have not said anything about that.
So I guess credit.
Credit to them where it's due, unless the state's kicking it in and we don't know about that yet, which is entirely possible. Because I know there's a lot of state monies that's going to be going into this. If it's to renovate Arrowhead for the World Cup, I don't know.
It would seem it's covered because we don't hear a lot about it.
Yeah, someone's paying for it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, when it comes to this and what's going on with this moment right now and this sales tax extension, there was an interesting wrinkle yesterday. And the wrinkle yesterday is that the Royals are still very much looking at the old Kansas City Star building. Now, I think it's a great location for them. Of the two options, the East Village, which is right near all the homeless shelters and really nothing else, and kind of meshing the crossroads to power and light in a very natural and organic way, and you help the crossroads, you help power and light, you put a baseball stadium there, it makes all the sense in the world to me. I of those two options, it's not even close. I love that location.
And then the park over the highway right through, they're connected all together.
Yeah.
Right.
They want to build that park over the South
Over
Loop, of
670.
course.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a part of this as well. So that makes complete sense. But there's a major problem. The major problem is that while the owner of the Kansas City Star building, Tony Privatera, who is going to be on the show at 9 o'clock today, by the way, while he is all set to work with the Royals and he's got renderings and the whole thing, there's a problem in that there's a church that is right next door that cannot exist in that location if the Royals are going to build a baseball stadium there. And not only is there a church in that location, but the church is working right now on expanding its footprint. And they shut down yesterday, or they shut down, parts of their operation to start fencing to build out their church right where the theoretical Royals ballpark would be. So take a listen to this reporting from Fox 4. Jonathan Ketz doing a great job.
Church of the Resurrection is expanding its downtown location. Leaders say some of the spaces at 16th and McGee are just too full to capacity. That's also the location where the owner of the old Star printing press has pitched to the Royals on building their new downtown stadium. Fox 4's Jonathan Ketz live near the church with the announcement by that church. Jonathan?
Yeah, despite the discussion, John, of an East Crossroads ballpark for the Kansas City Royals, the Church of the Resurrection here isn't waiting to make their decision. Just a day after the Resurrection held a groundbreaking at their downtown location, crews from McCown Gordon were seen putting up fencing around the church's parking lot. The church isn't commenting on their expansion project on camera.
So you've got this church right downtown, Resurrection Downtown Methodist Church, that yesterday started putting up fencing to build out their church. And that church cannot possibly exist in that location if the Royals are serious about being at that site, just due south of T-Mobile Center, which makes a heck of a lot more sense than the East Village. This layer after layer after layer, this is an absolute utter mess for the Royals. I don't know if they know what the heck they're doing right now. I don't know if they have any idea. Tony Privatera is on camera with Fox 4 last night saying, hey, I've got these renderings. This is going to look really good. He's got this whole promotional video that he's rolled out. But you have a church right now that is literally working on renovations that can't possibly exist under this footprint.
It completely contradicts a new Video Star Press Pavilion owner, Tony Privatera, sent to Fox 4 a week and a half ago, a ballpark going directly south of the T-Mobile Center. It's a video of an image he sent us earlier this month, a ballpark that goes from Grand on the west to Oak on the east. Monday, Privatera told us either he or the Royals could still buy the church out.
So we're talking to them right now.
Even though they just announced an expansion.
Yes. But our approach towards this isn't anything more than overpaying and giving people not just fair market value, but what's right for this specific situation.
The Royals aren't commenting on the church's plans, nor are they commenting on Privatera's video.
What is going on? The Royals have got to say something. John Sherman, somebody say something around the freaking baseball team already. You got these two locations. One, the East Village, to me, they clearly don't want to be in. Now you have this old Kansas City Star building option, but a church is right around the corner building out its location as you guys apparently zero in on that site. What is going on?
They're going to have to build the church in the East Village now after they buy him out.
Maybe they put the church right in the new stadium. How about that? Now we're talking.
There's a concept.
We're
talking about a village there.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Now we're all working together here. Now we got something going.
It's a doubleheader today.
Go say, instead of the seventh inning stretch, take me out to the ball game, you go to the church, you say a prayer, you pray for a comeback for the Royals. How about that? We'll all get on the same page here. You could not plan this more poorly if you tried for the Kansas City Royals. From the messes in Jackson County to now this locational trouble with the old Star building and the church wanting to build out. This is an absolute mess. And it would behoove the Royals, who I know are just sitting there begging the Chiefs to win another Super Bowl and carry them across the finish line. But it would behoove the Royals to get off their butts and say something and have some kind of statement on what the heck they're doing and what their plans are and what's going on to the taxpayer, who they're also asking for hundreds of millions of dollars from.
At last check, they stated they would have a release or information at the end of the month.
Yes. And
into February.
February.
So, yeah, today's the 30th.
Did they confirm what year in February? Or no?
No, but we did note it was a leap year, and they had an extra 24 hours to
That's
work with,
right.
So
it is a leap year. So good for them. All right. Well,
but
they
that's
got
where
another
it stands.
24
That's the last
hours.
thing we heard, correct?
Yeah, that's
right.
it. Mm-hmm. They said at the end of February, by the end of February, they'll have some information. Well, that's very nice.
Such a nice man.
Very, very nice of you. Coming up on KCMO Talk Radio, don't forget Missouri Governor Mike Parson will be here at 8 o'clock. We have those Jordan Peterson tickets at 7:15. He's playing, or not playing, he's doing his show at Cable Dahmer Arena next month on Friday, February 16th. Don't miss that. We've got those tickets in a half hour on KCMO. Next, the reaction on cable news to Trump's latest issue. It's something that might actually help Trump win the election. I'll explain it. I've got the audio next on KCMO 95.7. Part of me wonders if Donald Trump just won the election last night, courtesy of his legal nemesis, E. Jean Carroll. This is one of the most awkward moments I've ever seen in my life on cable news. So E. Jean Carroll is, of course, the lady who sued Donald Trump and was awarded $83.3 million in damages in a defamation trial that ended on Friday. Now, this is more than 3 times the amount of money her legal team asked for in its closing arguments. It's more than 8 times what E. Jean Carroll requested in her initial lawsuit. It is unbelievable. Of course, Trump's put out statements about this. The jury spent 2 hours and 45 minutes in deliberations after closing arguments wrapped on Friday afternoon. The verdict was read. Trump blew a gasket. And, of course, the appeals process is now going to play out as well. Now, you look at this and you say to yourself, how does this happen, right? How does someone like E. Jean Carroll, who lacks an incredible amount of credibility, regarding her rape allegations against Donald Trump end up with 8 times the amount of money that she's requested. But once again, for Trump, it seems like every time he finds himself in one of these legal binds, or the perception is the outcome is worse than what we expected, it actually might end up benefiting him. Take a listen last night to E. Jean Carroll on MSNBC with Rachel Maddow in one of the most painful, awkward, and disturbing interactions you will ever hear or see on any cable news outlet. Let's roll the tape.
You've talked about using some of Trump's money you're about to get to help shore up women's rights. Do you know what that might be, what that might look like?
Yes, Rachel. Yes.
Tell me.
I had such great ideas for all the good I'm going to do with this money. First thing, Rachel, you and I are going to go shopping. We're going to get completely new wardrobes, new shoes, motorcycle for Crowley, new fishing rod for Robbie. Rachel, what do you want? Penthouse? It's yours,
Nothing.
Rachel. Penthouse and France? You want France? You want to go fishing in France? No? Oh, all right, okay.
That's a joke.
Although if me fishing in France could do something for women's rights, I would take the hit. You know, I would obviously take one for the team. All right, let me as if you need persuasion in that regard.
Holy, Mark hit the dump button. Holy, no, I'm kidding. All right. E. Jean Carroll gets awarded $83 million. She goes on Rachel Maddow, gets asked a softball fluff question about women's rights and how she's going to use the money for women's rights or something along those lines. And she goes on a diatribe for a minute about how she's going to go on a shopping spree with Rachel Maddow, asking her if she wants a penthouse in France. And E. Jean Carroll's attorneys are sitting there right next to her in one of the most awkward things you're ever going to see. And one of them actually speaks up and says, "Oh, she's joking." This is pretty disturbing and pretty sick and twisted stuff. I'm not sitting here saying, and I've never said it for the better part of 9 years, that Donald Trump's some kind of choir boy. Never suggested that. We know who he is. To be honest, he's not somebody I'd want any of my 3 daughters to marry when it comes to how he's personally conducted himself. Ran the country well, but I don't have any shame or regret in saying that if one of my daughters came home with the next Donald Trump, in terms of his personal qualities and traits, I wouldn't be doing cartwheels over it. But this E. Jean Carroll accusation has had holes in it from day one. Her credibility has been questioned, rightfully so, from day one. And then when she gets asked a complete softball question about women's rights and how to use this $83 million settlement to forward women's rights, what does she say? "I'm going shopping, baby. Let's go. Woo! It's time to get the penthouse in France there, Rachel. What do you say?" By the way, Rachel Maddow makes like $15 to $20 million a year. She can buy her own penthouse in France if she wants to. But that's the kind of stuff that people are going to see. It's going to go viral. It has gone viral. I'll put it up on Twitter at Pete Mundo. You can see it there. And it's just going to have people shaking their heads and saying, yeah, do I think Trump's a great guy, a choir boy? No, but man, he's getting railroaded by an entire establishment of individuals. And this in large part feels like the latest example of that. And the reaction from E. Jean Carroll is case in point on how it feels like the latest reaction to all of that. 913-408-7957. Pete, how did she even get $83 million? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's break this down here. The jury found that Trump owed Carroll $11 million to cover the costs of a campaign to repair the harm done to her reputation. Then $7.3 million to address the emotional harm that she sustained from remarks made by Trump in 2019 about her and her accusations. Now, Trump denied the accusations. So now he's got to pay $7 million because he denied accusations almost 5 years ago. And then he had to pay $65 million in punitive damages. That's how you get to the $83.3 million mark. That's the number right there. Now, of course, as I noted, Trump has promised to appeal the decision in a statement that he made after the verdict came down. But still, it is just another chapter in the never-ending saga that ultimately may end up helping Donald Trump in a weird roundabout way. Finally got our sunny days here in Kansas City on KCMO 95.7 FM. I love how Greg Bennett's given the weather forecast by saying what it should be this time of year. It's like, Greg, we paid the price. If you think I'm going to pat the weather gods on the back here for giving us some 60-degree days, tell them to stick it where the sun don't shine. We paid the price, Greg. Well, it's supposed to be 20 degrees this morning. It's really 35. Okay, and it was just -8 for 2 weeks.
Yep, lived here for 63 years, soon to be 64. Kind of got it.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so thanks, Greg, for telling me that, but I'm not going to, do cartwheels over it. So, sorry, buddy. 7:50 on a Tuesday. Tirade Tuesday is coming up at 8:30, and Mike Parson, the governor of Missouri, is 15 minutes away. We got a lot to get to with him. So, a name that is rapidly rising in the VP sweepstakes, since that is the most and only compelling part left of this primary, is New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. She is the number 4 House Republican. She has become a close. What are you laughing about? I haven't even given a good punchline yet to the story.
I'll wait then.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the choice.
Oh, you do?
That, so
you do like the choice.
I will tell you why when you get done, because you might like it for the same reason.
Okay. So she has become a close ally of Trump's. She has continued to increase her sway within the MAGA ranks, so to speak. And we know that Trump obviously is, well, the rumors are that he is seriously considering picking a woman, which makes sense. Trump needs help with suburban, independent-leaning women, and whether or not Elise Stefanik does it remains to be seen, but she's, a young mother. I think that is good for Trump. I think that makes a lot of sense for him. And if she's someone who is obviously not trying to steal the spotlight from him, which is also important, it makes sense. Do I think that's the best choice for him? No. But I think it's certainly, I like it better than, Kristi Noem. I like it better than a Carrie Lake, who's just, as Trump would say, a stone-cold loser. I mean, literally a loser of elections. Elise Stefanik has had success in Congress. She has won elections. She has helped flip the House the last time around. So I like this pick more than a lot of the names that have been floated out there, John, and apparently you do as well.
I do, because she suitably triggers the left. Perhaps you didn't see it. We might have alluded to it. The Saturday Night Live skit, the week that they had the college presidents on, and she was doing the grilling, the
She's
investigation.
She's the one that did the questioning of the presidents.
They hated it. They parodied her as a screeching, just answer the question.
Yeah.
Right? Yes or no? Yes. So they made fun of her rather than the college presidents and their idiotic answers and stammering on Saturday Night Live. So I thought, she suitably triggers the left.
So that's one of those things that actually probably helps Trump. If SNL's making fun of you, you skyrocket in Trump world.
There you go.
Because she was the one, her big viral moment this year or this past year would have been when she grilled the presidents of UPenn, Harvard, and MIT over their inability to condemn anti-Semitism on their campuses.
Oh, she did the big dim thing. Yes or no? Just yes or no. That's all I want to know. Yes or no.
She put it right back in their faces.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
And they hated it.
And by the way, since that, the Harvard president blown out, UPenn stepped down, and I think the lady at MIT is still hanging around. But that was a very good moment for Elise Stefanik and a very good moment for common sense. Like, why are our Ivy League presidents unable to simply say, yeah, anti-Semitism's bad. We can't have it on our campuses. We should condemn it. Like, it was as big of a layup as you could possibly have. And they dropped the ball miserably in that moment. So she's moving up the chain, apparently, and I'm good with that. Now, I can already see the text line blowing up a little bit, and some of you have brought this up anytime I note that Donald Trump is likely or expected or, rumored to be picking a female running mate. And the argument gets made on the text line saying, Pete, you rightfully rail all the time against, DEI and picking somebody because of race or gender or anything like that. So why are you doing that with Trump's VP pick? Why are you saying that it would be wise for him to pick a woman? Shouldn't he just pick the best person for the job? Okay, yeah, but this is different than like hiring an accountant or hiring a pilot. The purpose of hiring a vice president is to hire somebody who helps you win an election. And because in the end, a VP doesn't really do a whole lot. All right. They don't really set policy. They don't tell the president what to do. They're there to help you shore up a portion of your constituency. Mike Pence with evangelicals for Donald Trump back in 2016. We can go on and on and on down the list. Sarah Palin, conservative base for John McCain. The only purpose of a VP pick is to help you win an election. And in the case of Donald Trump, every poll shows that he struggles with women. And if he can pick a woman who softens him for his own, presidency and also helps him land some folks and get some independent swing voters and suburban women to vote for him, then that's all that matters. That's what this is about. So it's not like, hey, I'm going to hire someone based on their skin color for this job in, the back room of the accounting office. It's very different because you're trying to win an election and trying to get voters to come around to you. And that's one way to go about doing it.
The circumstances are situational. Bottom of the ninth, World Series, the manager calls down to the bullpen and goes, get me whoever wants to pitch. No, he's looking for a lefty or a righty, one or the other. There's a strategy to it, not just whoever.
Yeah, and that's the strategy here. And it makes sense as a strategy. Don't blame me because, people are more likely to be open to their politicians based on who they associate themselves with. That's been the case since the beginning of time. I'm not changing human nature here. I'm just acknowledging it and then trying to figure out which person makes the most amount of sense. That's it. That's the only conversation that needs to be had here on this front. So it's not me playing the DEI card or anything like that. It's simply saying what helps you win. That's
in this situation.
In this situation.
Right?
Specifically for Donnie Boy. That's it. Can you say the names with me here for a second? William Jerome Rivers, Carrollton, Georgia. Kennedy Layden Sanders, Waycross, Georgia. And Brianna Alexandria Moffitt of Savannah, Georgia. 46, 24, and 23 years old, respectively. Those are the three American service members who were killed in an attack by Iranian proxies over the weekend in Jordan on the border of Syria. The names were released yesterday by the Pentagon and identified yesterday by the Pentagon. And now the question is, what is the response going to be from Joe Biden and the White House? And as I see it, there are three real options here. There are three ways they could punish Iran. It could do a direct strike on Iran, which seems unlikely with the betas we got running the show. The other option, hitting the regime's proxy groups or personnel abroad. That seems like the most likely option. When, who knows? And then there's ratcheting up financial pressure on Iran's economy. That seems like a big no-go because a large part of battering their economy would be admitting that drill, baby, drill is a great policy for America. And we all know that the folks who shut down the Keystone Pipeline are not going to come back and say drill, baby, drill. So they're probably not going to attack Iran. They're probably not going to start jacking up oil production here in the U.S., which would hurt the Iranian economy, which is so heavily oil-based. So we're probably looking at option number 2 there, hitting the regime proxy groups, which I'm also okay with, but I would have done it yesterday. I would not have waited. and I would have gotten that thing done. And by the way, when we talk about attacking, whether it's a proxy group or Iran, no one is advocating, no one in the right mind outside of, Lindsey Graham is advocating for like some kind of full-scale world war, get the troops involved in Iran or anything like that. But you can do targeted attacks. Think about Trump, Soleimani, and you can have a very effective foreign policy without putting a large number of U.S. troops at risk. But there has to be some response. It's got to be. But, yesterday, Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, was asked about some of this. And she was asked about cutting off Iranian oil sales, and that is not on the table as far as she's concerned.
At what point does the president then cut off the money to Iran by stopping or reducing their benefit from oil sales?
I just don't have anything to share on that particular thing.
They need the oil. Why? Because they continue to appease the worst actors on the planet. It's not just, that way, by the way. It's not just through allowing Iran to make billions of dollars off their own oil, which has been policy now for the last better part of 3 years. It's also, you want to talk about appeasement. How about this for an overlooked story? The United States, weeks ago, secretly warned Iran ahead of an Islamic State terrorist attack. That's right. You go back to January 3rd, when Iran lost 80 of its civilians in a couple of suicide bombers. There was a day when they were commemorating the anniversary of the death of Soleimani. That's the former leader who Trump killed in a drone attack back in January of 2020. So the U.S., this administration, tipped off Iran and said, hey, we've got information that suggests you guys are going to get hit with a terrorist attack coming up here on the Soleimani anniversary. Now, remember, we're the ones who killed Soleimani, rightfully so, by the way. And we go out of our way, this administration goes out of its way, to warn Iran on the day they're set to commemorate Soleimani that we have information that this organization ISIS-K, as they're known, a spinoff of ISIS, is going to attack your people. Why are we doing that? To be good guys. Basically, we're trying to buy off the Iranians, buy them off with information in hopes that they won't attack us and they won't attack our people. And what do? Well, through their funded proxies, thanks to all the oil money they've got, they just killed 3 Americans over the weekend. Weeks after we tipped them off to a terrorist attack, which, by the way, they did nothing about. Because maybe the leaders in these countries forget caring about us. They don't care about their own people. And it's been the biggest problem. It was a problem under Obama. It's been a problem under Biden as well. They think that these are normal, clear-thinking individuals who, like, if you just negotiate with them, they'll see the world the way you see it. They'll understand the ideas of freedom and democracy, and they don't. They're radicals. You can't buy their love, right? It's like the girlfriend who's ready to dump you, but every time she goes to dump you, you buy her some new piece of jewelry at Diamonds Direct. Eventually, it stops working. Oftentimes, it stops working pretty quickly because it's not actually about the thing you think it's about. And that's what's going on here with this administration and the worst actors in the world. They're trying to talk to them. They're trying to deal with them like they're normal individuals. And they're not normal. They're killers. They kill without regard. They allow their own citizens to get blown up without regard. They don't care. They are radical extremists who, if they had their way, would wipe us all off the planet. And we now have, just this century, we've got 11 years of data, 8 under Obama, 3 under Joe, on appeasement. And every single time it's failed. Even if John Kirby, the National Security Advisor, insists that it's not what they're doing, it is the policy that they're doing.
The president's response to Republican critics who are of the mind that this attack was the result of perceived weakness. For instance, the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee said that President Biden's fear of escalation has morphed into a doctrine of appeasement.
they can speak for themselves. That's obviously not the way we see this.
No. We of course you don't see it that way. Because if you admitted that you saw it that way, you would admit that the policy of appeasement is an utter failure. So of course you're not going to sit there and say, well, they got a point. You're not going to do that. No way. But it hasn't stopped them from the bad policy, and it doesn't appear like 3 dead Americans are going to stop them either. And that's a damn shame. So once again, those names: William Jerome Rivers, 46, Kennedy Layden Sanders, 24, Breonna Alexandria Moffitt, 23, all of Georgia. Coming up next, Tirade Tuesday. The phone lines are now open. It is your segment to tee off on whatever is going on in your life, in your world. The floor is yours, and the phones are open at 913-408-7957. I don't care what direction you take this thing. 913-408-7957. Let's have a great Tirade Tuesday next on 95.7 FM, KCMO. It's 8:50. It is great to be here on KCMO on a Tuesday, Tirade Tuesday, just in the books, and we appreciate you joining us. Tony Privatera is going to be here just after 9. Tony owns the old Kansas City Star building on that South Loop. Of course, it's empty right now. So the question is, what's he going to do with it? Well, one of the potential answers is to put the Kansas City Royals' new stadium there. Obviously, he would want that. That would be a huge coup for him. But there are some issues for him there as well. So he will join us just after 9. That'll be his first appearance on the show. So make sure you're listening and streaming if you're at the office by then at KCMOTalkRadio.com. So, the country can't get enough of this budding love story right here in Kansas City between Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. And it's really not even a budding love story anymore. I mean, I met my wife. Kate and I met when I was 19, she was 20, since I was cougar chasing. And I've often said, if you're in your mid-30s, because we have plenty of friends, sad to say, in our mid-30s who are still single. If in your mid-30s through, 15 plus years of dating, you don't know in 6 months if that person is for you, then you got to move on. Like, it's not like when you're in your late teens or early 20s and you date for a couple of years and you're trying to figure out life and do all that. You're in college or whatever it might be. Like, in your late or mid-30s, you know what you need. You know what you want. You know what you're looking for. Move on. I think that's how I would imagine it goes. So this is not a budding love story. These are two people who are now in love. There are rumblings they'll get married. So it's not a budding love story anymore, but it still is the biggest love story that's gotten talked about in this country in a very long time. But because everything now gets stupidly political, this has become one of those things that's gotten stupidly political. And I can't tell you how many folks have sent me messages on social media, have texted this show, and suggested that Taylor Swift is secretly a plant of George Soros because he bought her music. Well, if you want to actually dig into that story, let's dig into that story here for a couple of minutes before the top of the hour. So the story here is that there was all this beef, and Ray Stevens would know the story very well coming up at 10 o'clock. But I'll share the Cliff Notes version of it here. Taylor Swift had this big falling out with her former record label. And that former record label is run by one of Ray Stevens' good buddies, Big Machine Records.
Yeah, specifically, too, with the guy, I think, was part of the deal. Not necessarily the company as a general thing, but a specific individual who ran the company.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it is true that a company that had some George Soros fundings that was funded in part by the Soros family did buy Taylor Swift's catalog, bought her music library, owns all her music. And that resulted in this big fallout between Taylor and her former manager because of the contract that she signed. So that is true. But here's where the story and the grand conspiracy falls apart. It falls apart because what has Taylor been doing over the last couple of years? She has gotten back at her former manager, Scooter Braun. She has gotten back at that company by recutting every single song she's ever done. And now telling her audience to download the Taylor's version of every song, because that's her recutting every song she's ever done to screw the company that bought her original catalog and to screw this guy. And yes, this individual, according to reports, did take some money from not even George Soros, but his son Alex and companies he was tied to. But the notion that Taylor Swift is deeply involved with the Soros family is not true. There were ties to the Soros family that bought her original catalog of music, but you would think if she was such a lackey for the Soros family, she wouldn't recut every song she's ever done and basically tell her audience and her fans to not buy the original cut. You would think if there was this love for the Soros family, she'd be all on board with this. She'd be loving the Soroses. She wouldn't be recutting music. She's done the antithesis of that.
She hates the Soros family, actually. Dating back to 2020, where she ranted on them.
Oh, did she rant on them in 2020?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I did not know that part of it. Was it on social media or was it in person?
She wrote a letter, I think, to them.
To the Soros family.
And they're greedy and all this other stuff. She doesn't like them.
Wow. So, okay. This is
it makes sense with the whole story.
Yes, it makes sense with the story I just told, but I didn't realize that little caveat
Little
here.
nuance.
That is outstanding. I mean, see, I like her even more than I did 5 minutes ago. Thank you very much for that, Mark. See, every conspiracy that Taylor Swift is some, Soros, far left, person who's going to take over the world. There's another reason right there that completely debunks the whole thing. But it's amazing how people are going to believe what they're going to believe, no matter where the facts lead them.
I see it all here on my Google. I mean, it's easy to find. It's so easy that John Anthony found it.
Yeah, well, I will.
Right there in the 5 minutes we did the story.
I will look up that letter, and maybe we'll get into that in the 9 o'clock hour here on KCMO Talk Radio.